Good morning, everyone. This is Megan. I'll go ahead and wait a few minutes before we get started.
One housekeeping note, this is Tessa, I'm the clerk of the board at Sandag. All of those that have joined us as attendees, you are muted by the organizer. Please do not click your microphone. As we had asked, I believe most of you have been through the training. We will unmute you when you raise your hand. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to just say welcome to all of our STAC members and guests. And I hope that you're all doing well and staying healthy at this time. I'd like to call the meeting to order now. In light of the recent news of the passing of MTS CEO Paul Jablonski, I'd like to offer my condolences to his family and his friends, and also to the whole MTS work family. And I'd like to ask for a moment of silence right now in his honor. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we have quorum, and then also do a roll call.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is Lisa Madsen. Thank you, Megan. I have a couple just really quick introductions before we get started. And so I'd like to welcome everyone to this virtual meeting of the STAC. I hope everyone has been able to stay safe and healthy during the pandemic. And just a couple of quick notes before we really get started. First of all, this meeting is being recorded, and Tessa Lero, the clerk of the board for Sandag, will be clerking the meeting today. And lastly, because this is a new process for us all, I'd like to ask Peter Stevens, Sandag Legal Counsel, to please go over basic instructions for both council members and members of the public to participate today. Peter?
Thank you, Lisa. First, for STAC members, if you have a question or comment, or would like to make or second a motion, click on the raise hand icon at the top right of the screen. When the chair sees that, she will call on you. Everyone's microphone will be muted by default. This is very important. Do not touch the microphone icon. The chair will be able to see a list of all STAC members who have raised their hand and will call upon you at the appropriate time, and you will be unmuted. Your microphone icon at the top right of your screen will turn from red to green. Again, do not click on the microphone icon yourself. If you mute yourself, we cannot unmute you. After your motion or comments, you will be muted again, and the chair will proceed to the next STAC member in line. For each item on the agenda, the chair will call on staff to present each item. For item number 7, you will see their PowerPoint slides on your screen. After each presentation, we will follow our normal process. If you have a question for the presenters, not a comment, raise your hand and the chair will call on you. We will then take public comment, which will be described in a moment. STAC members can then offer comments on the item by raising their hand. As before, the chair will call on members who have raised their hands and unmute each individually. If you would like to make a motion or second the motion, please raise your hand. The chair will recognize you in the same manner as for questions or comments, and your microphone will be unmuted to make or second a motion. For voting, by state law, all votes in a teleconference meeting must be by roll call vote. After there has been a motion and a second, the clerk will call for the vote of each member individually, and that member will be unmuted to vote. At the conclusion of voting, the chair will announce the result. Also, for clarity of the record, please identify yourself each time you speak. As we go through this process, we'll likely be a bit slower than normal. For members of the public who are virtually attending this meeting may comment by raising their hands in GoToWebinar. To do so, click on the raise hand icon at the top right of the screen. When the chair recognizes you, you'll be unmuted by staff and can make your comment. Again, everyone's microphone will be muted by default. This is very important. Do not touch the microphone icon. The chair will be able to see a list of all persons who have raised their hands and will call on you at the appropriate time, and you will be unmuted. Again, do not click on the microphone icon yourself. If you mute yourself, we cannot unmute you. After your comments, you'll be muted again, and the chair will proceed to the next person in line. Comments that were emailed to the clerk of the board in advance of the meeting, those sent by 4 p.m. Friday will be read at today's meeting. This concludes the instructions. Staff will remain available to assist with any technical issues. Chair?
Yes, I see that Rebecca Steiner has a question or a comment. Is this a question regarding the instructions?
Rebecca,
She doesn't seem to be answering at the moment.
if you can hear us, Rebecca, we cannot hear you. You may want to use your telephone to call in to use the audio on your telephone. If you go to the audio tab and click the down arrow, you can change it from computer audio to phone call, and you'll be provided a number to dial, and then we will send you a PIN.
Okay, I think we should go ahead and do the roll call for now, and establish quorum, and then maybe under public comment, we can find out if Rebecca had a question.
Okay, sure. This is Lisa again. I'm going to go ahead and take roll. So for special interest voting members, Ilse Carey, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Kent Rodricks, are you here?
Here.
Okay. At-large voting members, Betty Voorhees, are you here?
Here.
Okay, Charlene Ornelas.
Here.
Okay, great. Catherine Manis. Catherine? I see she's here and she has her hand raised, so she may be having some difficulty with the audio. I'll count her as present, but Catherine, you may need to call in. And then moving down to agency members for survivors of torture, is Winona Garcia here? Is Alicia De Leon Torres here from Survivors of Torture?
Oh, no, Winona's here. Sorry, I was just unmuted. Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, sorry, good morning. Okay, San Diego Center for the Blind, is Marissa Lucero here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Is Elsa here as well? Okay. Home of Guiding Hands, Todd Shaw?
Ilsa, Carrie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm here. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
All right, go on, Lisa.
Todd Shaw, Home of Guiding Hands, are you here? Or Edward Hershey from Home of Guiding Hands? I don't see them on the attendee list either, so I will mark them as absent. And then Arc of San Diego, Anthony DeSalis.
Here.
Okay. Melanie McCoy. And then Elder Help, Claudia Gavin.
Muted.
Claudia,
I'm
you're
here.
on.
I'm Claudia Gavin's here.
Okay. And then is Nancy Kaiwanuka here? Okay. And then standing agency members, Megan, you're here. Is Arun here? MTS Vasi or Jay? I thought I saw
here.
Vasi.
Bessie?
Yes.
Vasi. Yeah, I thought I saw your name. Is Jay here?
Jay
I
does
see
not
Jay-
have audio. Oh, go ahead.
I see Jay in attendees, but he is not connected to the meeting by audio. So Jay, if you're out there and you're hearing this, you may want to go to your audio tab, expand it, and then go down to phone call, and then you can call in from your phone.
Okay, and then lastly, NCTD, Robert Gibo, are you here? Okay, yes, I see Robert's here, but I don't think his audio is connected either.
Yeah, I just sent Robert an audio pin. So Robert, just put that audio pin into your phone and you should be able to connect.
Okay, that's all for roll call, and it does look like we have a quorum. So with that, we can go ahead, Megan and, well, Arthur, first I think we can move to slide 2 for approval of meeting minutes, and then Megan.
Thank you, Lisa. So item 2 is the approval of the meeting minutes from January, which now seems so long ago, a whole different world. Do we have a motion or any comments on the meeting minutes?
This is Charlene. I move to approve the minutes as printed.
And it looks like Betty has her hand raised.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that I got recorded. As being present, that's all I wanted.
Sorry, yes, Betty, I've got you.
And do we have a second for the motion? From Mary?
Second. And I wasn't called at all for attendance.
Mary, you're an alternate, and
Okay.
Betty is here today.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
So, do we need a second still?
Yes.
Lisa, did you establish who the voting members are? The alternates in the,
Sure, I can do that really quick. So all of the voting members are here. So Ilse, Kent, Betty, Charlene, and Catherine are present. So so all of our primary members are here. So we don't need to delegate to any alternates.
And I just want to clarify to the chair that your motion and second need to be from your primary voting members that are present.
Yes. So can I get a second from either Ilse, Carrie, Kent, Betty, Charlene, Catherine, Winona, Marissa, Todd, Anthony, Claudia?
You
There
have
are
a lot
hands
of hand
raised,
raises.
Oh, okay.
multiple.
I see Betty's hand.
And I see Ilse as well. So yeah, I'll just say Betty, since we called on her first, see if Betty gives the second.
I was just going to second.
Oh, who is speaking?
Betty?
Okay, gotcha, Betty.
Thank
So
you.
the second
Lisa,
from Betty.
Lisa, this is James. If I may, if the chair or you as liaison could see the hand raised, call on the member, then we will unmute them.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so meeting minutes are approved then?
no, you have
No.
a first and second, you need to do a roll call vote.
Okay, roll
Yes.
call.
Right. You need to do a roll call vote of your primary members, and as you call their names, James and Arthur will unmute them. They can register their vote, and then they'll be muted again. And you just need to call your primary members that are present to do the vote.
Okay. Okay, so
And for the record,
We-
before the vote, for the record, I'd like to
Lisa?
state that there are no.
yes.
I'm sorry. I need to state for the record that there are no public comments on this item.
That was going to be what I was going to ask about, Lisa. Go ahead.
Okay, are there any public comments on this item or?
No,
Can I-
there are not. You
Okay.
may now do the roll call vote. Thank you.
Roll call vote. Ilse Carey.
Yes, I approve.
Okay. Kent Rodricks.
Approve.
Betty Voorhees. You were the second, so yes. Charlene Ornelas, since you gave the first.
Charlene, you're self-muted. Please allow us to control that.
Okay. It's actually muted on its own, and I have to unmute it. I approve.
Okay, Catherine Manis.
I approve. I don't know
Winona
why.
Garcia. Winona? She's got her hand raised.
Hi, I approve. Thank you.
Marissa Lucero.
I approve.
Is Todd Shaw, he is not here. So Anthony DeSalis.
I approve.
Claudia Gavin.
I approve.
Okay, Megan?
I approve, and I also see that Jay's hand is up. I'm not sure if that has something to do with a comment on the minutes or not.
Okay, can we
I just
call
wanted
in?
to make, sorry, I just wanted to check in. I was a few minutes late for roll call, and I can give a yay on the minutes while I'm here too.
Okay, great, thank you. Vasi, do you approve?
Yes.
Okay, and Robert and CTD.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. It looks like minutes are approved. I don't know if you have to make that official, Megan?
Yes, I think we had a motion from Charlene to approve, and then the second was from Betty, and all members approved. Motion passed.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for bearing with me. So then I guess we'll move on to item number 3, public comments and communications. I did not receive any public comments either via the hotline or email. Tessa, did you?
I did not receive. And now the chair would ask for member comments.
Does anyone have any comments from our members? I don't see any hands raised.
J hand is raised.
Oh, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, what I just wanted to ask was, is after the member comment, could we deviate from the schedule slightly? I have to jump off the call at 10:30. Obviously, things are happening at MTS with Paul's passing, and I just wanted to give the MTS report before I had to jump off.
Yes, I think we can go ahead and move that up to right after public comment. Or should we do it now?
I don't see any other public comment.
I see Charlene's hand up.
Charlene, you're once again self-muted. Allow us to
No.
control that.
I have to, for some reason on my phone, I have to unmute every time you light up my microphone, so I'm watching for it. I just wanted to mention my understanding is that NCTD is not charging for buses or for transit, but MTS is, and it's very confusing for passengers. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Charlene. Let's go ahead then, and Jay, if you want to provide your report.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate you bearing with me today, as things are a little crazy today. Obviously, with COVID, it's made changes in all of our lives. MTS is trying to be very proactive in response to COVID. When it comes to our paratransit service, we've experienced about a 90% decrease in our ridership so far, with people self-isolating and sheltering in place. We have gone to all single rider trips currently, so there are no multi-passenger loadings to allow for social distancing, with the exception of personal care attendants or companions with the rider. We have suspended in-person assessments. All recertifications or new certification requests for access, as long as the applications are completed, are being given a 90-day temporary certification or extension that's subject to further extension as the COVID situation moves forward. Also exploring options going forward once we look to continue the assessments then down the road. All drivers are wearing masks and have masks, gloves, and other PPE available to them. We've moved our standee line on the buses back to create some social distancing for the drivers from passengers. We closed the first row of seating on many buses and the paratransit vehicles also. trying to allow for more social distancing, nightly cleaning of the vehicles, and some vehicles that there's a gap during the day are getting midday cleanings and wipe downs also to try and again do everything we can to prevent any spread while on public transit. For our larger fixed route vehicles, we've started rear door boarding on those vehicles also to allow for social distancing. In response to what Charlene was saying, MTS is not accepting cash currently. We still, if riders have passes, we're asking them to show the passes, show their IDs, so on, but we are not taking cash, again, because of social distancing and it's for the safety of the riders and the passengers. So this gives kind of an outline of the services that we've made modifications to right now. Be glad to answer any questions anyone might have on those services. And before that, just one other thing I wanted to mention is we have several new software modules, a call out alerting system, a web booking capability, and also a cashless fearing system that we will probably be ready to test in the next couple of months. So we'll have a lot more details coming up on that probably at the next STAC meeting. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Jay. Does anyone have any public comment regarding Jay's update?
Chair, I do not have public comments on item 8.
Great. So we'll go ahead and then go back to item 4, and then we'll go back to item 8 when we get there. So item number 4 is the staff report from Sandag.
Hi, yes, this is Lisa again. Just a few things. First, I would like to offer my condolences to MTS. I worked for MTS for 10 years, and Paul was one of the first people I met when I started in this industry as an intern 15 years ago. So it was very sad to hear of his passing yesterday. I asked Jack Christensen to provide an update on SB 1376, which is the TNC accessibility for persons with disabilities legislation, and he noted that proposals are being received on track 3 issues from parties to the proceeding, of which Sandag is one. There will be a workshop held in mid-June on track 3 proposals, and comments from the workshop will be due June 25th, with replies to comments to the workshop comments due by July 7th, and a proposed and final decision are both expected in July, September 2020. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more information on this item at the next meeting, which I know this topic is very important to those of you on the council. Sandag's economics and finance departments have done some interesting analysis on the economic impact of COVID-19 in the San Diego region. So you may have heard of some of this data reported in the media, but I would encourage everyone to check out the publications themselves, which can be found at sandag.org/economy, or if you go to the front page of sandag.org, you can kind of navigate to it because there's that little box saying, about our response to COVID-19. But also let me know if you'd like me to send the link, and I can do that as well. It's just very interesting data. And lastly, the 2020 coordinated plan was bumped from the Transportation Committee's agenda for this Friday. That meeting was actually canceled. So instead, the draft will be going to the committee at its June 19th meeting, with the final going in July. And that's it from me. Brian, I don't know if you had anything.
No, I'll be talking more about the Cycle 11 item with Zach. So that was really about it. I think you covered everything. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Did we have any public comment on item number 4?
Chair, there's no public comment on item.
Thank you. We can go ahead and move to item number 5, which is the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council membership.
Okay, yes. So just a quick note, we have 3 positions on the SDEC that are expiring this year. One is the special interest alternate of potential transit riders who are disabled. and that's currently the position held by Wayne Landon. The second position is one at-large alternate representing the interests of seniors, persons with limited means, or disabled transportation users who are familiar with the ADA and Title 24 regulations. And that position is currently held by Mary Burdine. And one social service provider for seniors, including one representative of a social service transportation provider if one exists. And that position is currently held by the San Diego Center for the Blind, with Marissa Lucero as the primary and Elsa Caballero as the alternate. And so per the STAC charter, STAC members shall be chosen by a selection panel and shall serve a 3-year term beginning and ending in the month of July. At the end of their term, members may apply for another 3-year term. The 3-year terms are staggered among the selected members such that annually for the terms of approximately 1/3 of the members expire. The membership application and selection process therefore occurs annually. A selection panel shall consist of SANDAG staff and no more than 3 current members of the STAC whose membership position is not open for applications. The selection panel shall select members from a broad representation of social service agencies, transportation providers, and others representing the elderly, the disabled, and persons of limited means, and strive to attain geographic and minority representation among members. So, what that means is we are looking to fill the 3 positions that will be open in July. I will email everyone on the contact list copies of the application. The application period will be open from June 1st through June 30th, 2020. And the selection committee will then meet in the first half of July. Successful applicants will be announced at the July STAC meeting, at which time we will also select a new chair and vice chair. And so I'd like to ask to see if there are any volunteers for the selection committee. Again, I'm looking for 3 current members to serve on the panel. Anyone?
I see Charlene's hand up.
Okay. Charlene, I'll put you down.
Thank you.
And Jay.
Jay, all right. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, I'll volunteer for the selection committee.
And one more.
I'll be happy to volunteer if I'm allowed.
Okay, I don't see anybody else volunteering.
Okay.
Okay, so for our selection committee, I have Charlene, Jay, and Megan. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt one moment and have Peter weigh in. This was an information item on your agenda. You can accept your volunteers, but they cannot be appointed until this comes back as an action item. Peter, is that correct?
I'm sorry, one more time? Or did Peter want to speak?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I believe you're correct, but just repeat it again.
Sorry, my dog is barking. I apologize. Let me repeat very quickly. This is an information item on the agenda. So I'm sorry. So they can accept the volunteers, correct? But not actually appoint them until they bring it back as an action.
Yes, this is just a volunteer item.
Yes, that is correct. You just cannot take action on this item at this point.
Right, yeah, we'll take action once we've reviewed all the applications and everything at the July meeting.
Peter, I believe that's fine as long as you're not taking a vote today.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And do we have any public comments on this item?
I do not have public comments on this item, Chair. Thank you.
Hey, Megan.
Yes.
I just might want to remind you that we're also asked for member comments on every item as well as public comments. The members have to talk on this one, but on the other items, make sure you're also asking members. That's all.
Sure. So any member comments on this item? Okay. I don't see any, so we can go ahead and move on to item number 6, which is the Specialized Transportation Grant Program Cycle 11 criteria. Brian?
I'll hand it over to Zach to start, and then I'll add a couple things, and then we'll open it back up for member comments to see what they think.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to go over the Cycle 11 Specialized Transportation Grant Program evaluation criteria, give us an intro, and then I'll be handing it over to Brian. So to start off, get a little background for those that might not be familiar with the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. SANDAG administers the Specialized Transportation Grant Program, or the STGP as we call it, which is comprised of the Federal Section 5310 program and the Senior Mini Grant Program, or SMG. The SMG program is funded through Transnet, the voter-approved half-cent sales tax in our region. Together, these two programs form the STGP. The goal of the STGP is to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities throughout the region by removing barriers to transportation services, expanding transportation mobility options, and providing transportation services that meet the special needs of seniors and individuals with disabilities. So every 2 years, SANDAG holds a call for projects for STGP funds. Local partners, including nonprofit organizations, transit operators, and jurisdictions, submit applications to SANDAG. Since there's more need than funds available, SANDAG, in consultation with members of the public and local stakeholders, establishes evaluation criteria to aid in the scoring of submitted applications and the distribution of available funds. So today we will be discussing some evaluation criteria and eligibility criteria considerations for which projects will be scored and eventually ranked. So before we get into the evaluation criteria, I'd like to share with you the anticipated timeline to provide some context. So it's May 11th, so May and June, we are seeking input on the evaluation criteria from stakeholders, including the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee and the STAC. And June or July, from the input heard previously, staff will present evaluation criteria recommendation to SANDAG's Transportation Committee, which has the authority to approve the evaluation criteria used to rank projects. In late July, following TC approval, Transportation Committee approval of the evaluation criteria, staff will release the call for projects, opening it for 90 days to submit applications. And then in late October, the call for projects will be closed. In November and December of 2020, SANDAG staff will check for project eligibility, and external evaluators will review and rank projects. And that takes us to 2021. In January through March, we will have a peer review process that is conducted, and then staff will take project funding recommendations to the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee and the Transportation Committee. And by late March, the board will review the recommended funding levels and approve those as they see fit. That takes us to April, May, and June, in which grant agreements between successful applicants and SANDAG are executed. And the projects themselves for senior mini grant would start July 1st of 2021 at the earliest, and Section 5310 projects can start no earlier than October 1st, 2021. So that kind of gives you an overview of the timeline of and the process by which we have new projects. So I would like to take the opportunity now to review the evaluation criteria used in the prior cycle, cycle 10, and provide potential tweaks to the eligibility criteria. So in cycle 10, the categories for scoring an agency or organization application included project readiness and technical capacity, and coordination and program outreach. For scoring a project, here's some categories that we looked at, like the degree to which the project met the goals and objectives, the degree to which the project had a robust operational / implementation plan, how the project was cost efficient and program effective, how the project demonstrated operational sustainability, how the project demonstrated innovation, and lastly, how the project scored in terms of performance indicators. So these were kind of categories to evaluate projects and organizations. So next, I'd like to go to the eligibility criteria. As in prior cycles, proposed projects must be derived from a very high or high priority strategy in the 2020 coordinated plan to be eligible for STGP funding. So I just wanted to bring your attention, the notable draft change from the 2018 coordinated plan is to make the following a very high priority. It was previously just a high priority. So this strategy is improve access to available services through coordination and enhance customer service that connects riders to transit or specialized transportation services that most appropriately meets their needs. And again, this was something that is considered going from a high to a very high priority. The other potential consideration being considered for cycle 11 is increasing the grant request maximum amount per project from $200,000 to $250,000, and for an agency from $500,000 to $600,000. And that is an effort to have more, quote, bang for the buck, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's see. So beyond tweaks to the eligibility criteria, I'll turn it now over to Brian to talk about potential changes, other potential changes. So Brian, if you're there, could you please go ahead?
Yep. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for listening in on this item. Like Zach alluded to, one other major change that we are considering at this point is carving off a % of the funds from both 5310 and senior mini grant and providing that directly to our CTSA that was chosen back in 2006. That our only applicant at that time was FACT, and they have been our CTSA for over 10 years now. That their obligations, it's a state mandated obligation through the Transportation Development Act, TDA, and they are provided with about $140,000 a year to do their CTSA duties. And so since then, we've had a contract with them to provide those duties under those funds. We recently amended that contract a couple of years ago, per a TDA audit to add performance measures so that we could actually have metrics to look at to see how they're getting their funds and how well they're performing. That was amended last July, and we'll be taking an item to the Transportation Committee this, well, it was supposed to be this Friday, but it's been pushed to the next Transportation Committee. Lisa will be taking that item and including a couple of quarters of their data. That's also included with the MTS and NCTD performance measures as well. Zach, I think you're not muted. Do you want to go ahead and mute yourself so we don't, there we go, thank you. So another TDA audit we received, a recommendation from the last audit we received was they were happy that we amended that contract with the CTSA, but they also noticed that the $140,000 they get per year to be our CTSA is not enough, and the amount of dedicated funding should be increased, and for us to look at ways to increase that. So starting about a year ago, we really started talking to some of the bosses at Sandag and executives to try and find ways that we could find funding that would help provide them with a dedicated source to be the better CTSA for our region. Some of the things that were considered were, and this was in the audit recommendation, were maybe changing the TDA allocations from that we provide to both MTS and NCTD and CTSA. It's a pool of money that we get out of there, and that's meant for paratransit type services as well as specialized transportation. Right now, that $140,000 I was alluding to is 2% of that total pot of money. The other 98% goes to MTS and NCTD to fund their paratransit operations, and even then, that's only a small part of their funding that they receive and need for their paratransit operations. So the consideration to change that 2% to some higher percent was looked at, but I think there's not much legs on that to take take less money from MTS and NCD, or give them less money and give it to CTSA instead. So that was kind of not considered. We were hoping that our last ballot measure, if successful, we would be able to carve out some more dedicated money to them out of that. Unfortunately, that measure did not pass. So one of the things we looked at was the ability to pull some funds from these two sources and provide it directly to the CTSA to do more of the duties that they're doing. So we're right now just considering X% of a carve off out of the funds, and then still competitively distributing the rest. Right now, we're considering somewhere between 20 and 30%. We'll present that to the Transportation Committee and see what they think. And if they approve that, then that would mean that before we distribute the funds, that X% would be provided directly to the CTSA to do those mobility management type activities that they're under contract with us for the TDA dollars. We would add in these funds and revise their contract to include that they would be receiving that money, and their performance measures and obligations would be changed drastically to ensure that the dedicated funds are being spent wisely. Our vice chair of our board, Mayor Blakespear, had asked for a meeting with FACT's board members and Hassan to discuss this late last fall. They asked, that we consider as many things as we can to provide more dedicated funding, because they've been hearing from the ITALC and the Transportation Committee and the board when we've taken the TDA audit recommendations as well as performance metrics of our grant program, that there seems to be a need to have, the CTSA provided more dedicated fundings. So just high level, we don't have the range of numbers yet in terms of funding, but if we took 20 to 30% off for mobility management to the CTSA, that would could be anywhere between about what they were getting already competitively for mobility management. If we did this, I think our recommendation to the Transportation Committee would be that the CTSA would then only be allowed to competitively apply for other funding, and that amount would be smaller so as to not take as much of the pot. At the most, right now, FACT, the last couple cycles have received about 25% or so of the funding awarded each cycle, just competitively. So this isn't a drastic change from that. It's just giving it to them directly so they can have a guaranteed source of funding to help them with what they do. That would still leave the rest of the money to be awarded competitively for all the other agencies. And like I said, this, if they did get this dedicated funding and an additional awards, they may receive up to 30 or 40% of the total funding. So we're trying to understand that, how we play with those caps to ensure that there's still plenty of dollars out there for all the other agencies to apply for. I think that's about it. So like I said, we'll take this to the Transportation Committee after hearing, the input from the STAC today, as well as from the ITALC, as soon as we can get this item to them to see what they think about this as well. With that, I'll hand it back to Zach to finish up and then get comments from members.
Thank you. So I really don't have that much else to talk about regarding this item, but we may, due to COVID-19, there are reductions in sales tax revenues, and which affects the senior mini grant program. So there could be a reduction in cycle 11 available funding through senior mini grant. This would not be the case for section 5310, which is federal dollars. We do not anticipate any decline in funding for that potential source. And so when we put together the available funding, we'll have ranges, and that'll take into account the funding situation due to COVID-19. That's all I have at this moment.
Thank you, Zach and Brian. Do we have any member comments? I'm not seeing any raised hands. Do we have any public comments?
I do not have public comments on item 6, Chair.
Thank you. So we can move on to item number 7, which is introducing the Office of Diversity and Equity from SANDAG.
Thank you so much, Megan. First slide, please. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank both Megan and Lisa for inviting us to speak about our new division at SANDAG. Next slide, please. So I am Elaine Richardson. I'm the Director of Diversity and Equity. And to your right is Dan Levy. He is our Principal of Social Equity. Next slide, please. So recently, the Small Business Development Division transitioned to the Office of Diversity and Equity, which we refer to as ODE. The SANDAG strategic initiatives and agency reorganization resulted in ODE's expanded responsibilities to include all aspects of a civil rights program, of which you can see some of our new responsibilities. ODE will continue to focus on small and disadvantaged business success at SANDAG as the pandemic has significantly impacted the small business community. Additionally, we have broadened our responsibility and strengthened accountability in further building a civil rights program to include Title VI, environmental justice, and the American with Disabilities Act, ADA. Next slide, please. The diagram that you see here summarizes our mission statement and program elements of the ODE division. So as you can see at the top, we have our businesses, which is our small business program, the DBE program, and our bench program. The communities is inclusive of our Title VI program, environmental justice program, and ADA. and then workforce, labor compliance, and pre-apprenticeship program. So our mission statement states the following. The Office of Diversity and Equity, ODE, seeks to promote diversity, equity, inclusivity, and accessibility in Sandag programs, projects, and services. Through various program initiatives, ODE advocates for disadvantaged communities, fosters the growth of small and diverse businesses, and develops new workforce opportunities. And lastly, I wanted to introduce you to the newest member of our team, Dan Levy. Dan was previously employed at Sandag as a senior planner. He then went to the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, LA Metro, and recently performed as their Chief of Civil Rights, reporting to the Chief Executive Officer. Dan has many years of social equity experience and will be responsible for Title VI, environmental justice, and the ADA programs. So this leads me to introduce Dan, so take it away. And we need the next slide, please.
Thank you, Elaine. There's a few familiar names out there. I recognize Charlene at least, and so it's kind of fun to be back at Sandag. So my new role here, one of the things we're going to be doing is reviewing all construction projects for accessibility. And that means both ADA and Title 24, but also means that I want to try and ensure that we don't have designs that meet the ADA and Title 24, but still don't provide accessibility. Because I know that that happens. We had lots of experience with that in LA, where designers still didn't come up with designs that were friendly to people with disabilities. So we're going to be reviewing this plans and specifications and then going out and looking at these facilities before they open. And so I'll be working closely with members of the committee and talking about those kinds of issues. And part of that also means that I would like to see changes made to design criteria to improve accessibility. And one example is wheelchair ramps. You know, the ADA allows ramps to have a slope of 8.33%, but people who build the facilities often have a hard time making sure that those ramps get built at 8.33%, if that's what they're designed as. So in LA, what we did is we reduced the standard for projects at Metro to 7%. And so even if there's a bit of construction variance, the slopes are still not as steep. And that's something I'm sure that we'll be able to get included here on future projects. I'm also going to be looking, or be the person who investigates, adjudicates accessibility complaints concerning Sandag facilities. And then finally, because I am a primarily here for a relatively short time, my job is also to make sure that the staff who are continuing on at Sandag are trained to review projects for accessibility. And then the last slide, I think, just gives the contact information for myself and Elaine at Sandag. And so if any of you have any questions or concerns, please give us a call. With that, my presentation is over.
Thank you, Elaine and Dan. Did we have any member comments? Charlene?
Yes, I'm very excited about this new, I guess, department or whatever. And I had mentioned in an email to Lisa that I would be very interested in checking out the, doing the walkthroughs, especially on making sure sites are accessible. That's something the TAC used to do, and other committees I was on. We actually would walk facilities to make sure they really did meet the standards, because it's frequent that contractors don't make the exact, specifications or error areas. So I'm glad to see the 7%, and that we're not going to go back to walking through things, because that's the only way you can really make sure of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Any other member comments? Don't see any. Do we have any public comments?
I do not have public comments on item 7, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to item number 8, the transit operator update. Jay provided his update for MTS. Vassie, did you have any update? I don't see Vassie's hand. NCTD, is Robert there? Or Charles?
Yes, I'm here. This is Robert from NCTD. I'm going to kind of mirror a little bit what Jay talked about. We're kind of in the same situation. Our paratransit is down 84%. NCTD has done everything we could to keep all drivers working. So any drivers that are not out on the road because there's no demand, we have put them through retraining and doing lots of training seminars with them. We've asked for volunteers for drivers to go out to our transit centers to do spot cleaning on buses, do touch points, so on and so forth. So we've got 4 transit centers where we have drivers out there all day long doing that. All drivers are wearing PPE. On our Breeze buses, we've moved the yellow line back behind the wheel well. As Jay discussed, we are not taking cash on our services, but we are taking passes. So we're just not carrying cash for fares. Our Eligibility Center has been closed. All new applications and recertifications have been given a temporary status for up to 90 or 120 days. As soon as that expires, we'll reach out to everybody, and if everything's back up and open again, then we'll start to reschedule people to come back in and do the 100% in-person assessment. For my trapeze modules, I'm completely done with all of my technology. I created a newsletter right at the start of the COVID-19 epidemic, so I'm going to wait until that's done to send the newsletter out to everybody that kind of describes what the Easy Wallet is, what the web is, how to use it, how to get in touch with customer service to get yourself set up. So I'll wait till that's all back to normal, and then I'll send that out so we can educate everybody on the technology that we have. So that's my report from NCTD. Any questions?
Thank you, Robert. I don't see any questions. Did Charles have an update as well?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Robert covered most of the safety measures that we've been taking since COVID-19. I'll just expand on some of the service changes that we have planned. First of all, starting March 23rd, we did pull back on some services. Coaster all weekend service is temporarily suspended until further notice. Our weekday service has been reduced by approximately 50%. And our Breeze bus service is mostly intact, but when schools were let out in March, we did suspend those trips that primarily serve the schools. For our upcoming service change, we were supposed to have a service change in April, but that has been postponed until July. Those changes will encompass minor scheduling changes to improve transfers between bus routes and trains, but there are no major service changes set for July, just those minor schedule changes. And let's see, I think that is everything on the fixed route side. So we'll go ahead and take any questions.
Thank you, Charles. Do we have any member comments? I don't see any hands raised. Do we have any public comments?
Chair, there are no further public comments on item 8.
Great, thank you, NCTD. Item number 9 is the fact update. So I'll go ahead and share what we've been up to for the past few months. We are seeing also a reduction in our trips, both for our Ride Fact service and our contracted agency trips. We're down approximately 30% for March, and we're working on our April numbers as well. We are still providing essential trips, and those are mainly for dialysis and grocery shopping. Currently, there are medical trips that are still happening, especially as some of the surgery centers and hospitals start scheduling some more medical services. We also have been working with the county to provide homeless transportation for those who may be symptomatic of positive or thought to be positive for COVID-19. We're working with the county to transport them to shelters and also so that they can get testing done. And then we are also working with the county and 211 to do meal deliveries. So we're picking up food and having our drivers in our brokerage deliver those boxes of food to the residents. To sign up for that program, people can call 211 for the eligibility criteria. And then we are also having our drivers and riders all wear masks. We're also providing some PPE as needed and as we can find it for our drivers. They are, cleaning their vehicles. They are following all of the procedures to make sure that there's as little risk as possible to any riders or drivers. We're also not doing shared rides right now. And we were also able to get a bulk order of masks from CALACT, which is the California Association of Coordinated Transportation. And we were able to do a bulk order for those masks and distribute some of those to our brokerage members and then also some outside agencies who are in need of masks. So if you do hear of an agency that might need more masks for their drivers or their riders, please let us know and we can see if we have some extra to help with that. We are continuing to hold weekly CAM meetings now where we can speak with our stakeholders and those throughout the region on upcoming issues or new issues as they happen with what people are experiencing currently with COVID-19 and ridership and other issues that come up. Everyone is welcome to join if you would like and you're not receiving those agendas. Please let me know and we'd be happy to add you to that list for those calls. And then we are continuing to do our monthly board meetings virtually. And the next one will be Thursday, May 28th. So if you're interested in receiving the agenda for that meeting as well, please let me know. And I don't have any other updates. Does anyone have any questions or member comments for this item? I don't see any public comment.
Chair, I do not have public comments on item 9.
Thank you.
Chair, Claudia Gavin has her hand up.
Claudia?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that update, Megan. You'd mentioned that you guys are helping with food deliveries as well. What does that look like? Is it grocery shopping and then the delivery, or is it some other like picking up food bank food?
So right now, yes, it's food that the county has worked to secure at a Red Cross facility, and 211 is the one who sends us those referrals. So we go to the facility and pick up that food that's been boxed for the clients, and then we pick them up and distribute them to the client's residence. Right now, we have not been doing pickups of food in other capacities, such as the grocery stores. We are open to doing that if there's a need, but we aren't providing that right now. I know that we've heard that the city of Coronado is doing something with their grocery stores where they have items that are already paid for and packaged, and drivers are just having to show up and pick up those grocery bags that are ready to go for them and deliver them. But at this time, we have not heard of others doing that, or have contact with any grocery stores right now that are offering a similar service. Claudia, go ahead. Did you have another comment, Claudia?
There we go. Sorry, it looked like I was still muted there. Well, thank you for expanding on that. Just so everyone is aware, at Elder Help, we are still able to provide grocery services to our clients and to community members, where we could have a volunteer go grocery shopping on their behalf and then deliver to their doorstep. Either that, or we ourselves have converted our office space into a food pantry with some generous funding that's come in from the community. We ourselves can go grocery shopping and stock up in our inventory, and from there distribute and deliver to seniors' doorsteps as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Claudia. I also know that JFS is doing a lot with their food pantry and doing food deliveries and food pickups. If anyone does hear of people who are in need, I would encourage them to contact Elder Help and JFS and 211 as well. Did we have any other member comments? I don't see any, and any public comments?
No, there are no public comments on item 9.
Thank you. So now we're going to item number 10, which is the public hearing.
Thank you, Megan. This is Lisa again. In accordance with Public Utilities Code 99238, one of the responsibilities of the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council is to annually participate in the identification of transit needs in the jurisdiction, including unmet transit needs that may exist within the jurisdiction of the council and that may be reasonable to meet by establishing or contracting for new public transportation or specialized transportation services, or by expanding existing services. Additionally, per Public Utilities Code 99238.5, SANDAG shall ensure the establishment and implementation of a citizen participation process utilizing the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council as a mechanism to solicit the input of transit-dependent and transit-disadvantaged persons, including the elderly, disabled, and persons of limited means. The process shall include provisions for at least one public hearing in the jurisdiction represented by the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. And so to date, no comments were sent via email or telephone to be read aloud at the meeting. And as Peter Stevens stated earlier, for both STAC members and members of the public, if you have a question or comment, click on the raised hand icon at the top right of the screen. When the chair sees your hand raised, she will call on you. And so also for clarity of the record, please identify yourself each time you speak. And so any comments received will be investigated and, if necessary, forwarded to the appropriate agency for response. And responses will be provided at the July 20th, 2020 STAC meeting. So Chair Schmidt, would you like to open the public hearing?
Yes, I'll open the public hearing, and I do have a hand up from Charlene.
Yes, the one area that I'm really would like to see covered is under the for paratransit, if a person, it has to be within 3/4 of a mile of somebody's home to, of a transit connection in order to get services. But sometimes people are in an area and then transit changes the bus routes and that puts a person outside of that area because it's difficult for people who are seniors, disabled, and people with low incomes to then try to move to something where some other location, they may own their house. I would like to see some kind of a program that would grandfather those people in to service until they move, and then they would be no longer eligible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. I'm taking that down as a note and we'll investigate that.
Does anyone have any other public comments? I don't see any hands up.
Hey, this is Brian. I want to make sure that I can't remember what we were going to decide on how to get any public attendees. I don't know if they can easily raise their hand as well, or
Yes.
if they're on a phone, if they can do it easily, but if there's a way to maybe just unmute for a minute or something and do a verbal check.
They all have, they all can raise their hands and we will see their hands raised, Brian, and then call on them.
Okay, I've just been worried about kind of the minimal participation in today's meeting. I know it is harder to participate in a virtual meeting, but even some of our more vociferous members have been really quiet today. I just want to ensure that it's not because they can't raise their hand. They've all been given training, I believe, but.
I do see a hand up from Marissa.
Hi, so this obviously was data or things I observed prior to all of this COVID stuff going on, but so in the past I had brought up some issues, I believe, with some problems with people who are traveling on the trolley who are visually impaired, and having to, sometimes the trolleys are not functioning and not announcing the stop. Someone had mentioned to push a button. There's like an emergency button inside the car. And I've noticed that when the car is not working, when that announcement is not happening, we've actually pushed the button and there was no response from the person who's up at the front. So I'm just curious if those two correlate. Like if you're not getting an announcement of the stops, then that button may not be functioning, and then the person can't contact the trolley driver to express the issue. So that's something that someone had told me, was to bring up the issue to the driver. Well, if the person's visually impaired, they can't get a hold of the driver, they step out and then they have to go and find the driver. That's a little bit difficult to do. I've done it where I've been with the client and I will run up to the front to tell them that that trolley or that car is not functioning, but I'm just not sure how in the future a client who's traveling independently would be able to even figure out where they're getting off without asking someone else, if there is someone in the car, and how they would let that driver know that that car is not functioning. And that's it.
Thank you, Marissa. I do see Charlene's hand.
Charlene, you're self-muted again.
We see your hand, Charlene, but we don't hear you.
Charlene is self-muted. I cannot unmute her.
Okay. I do see another hand. Maybe we can go to David and then back to Charlene. David Jackson.
David is also self-muted.
Oops. I think I am muted.
can-
No, I'm good. I just wanted to see if I was actually registered. All right.
Okay.
No comment, David? How's transit down in South Bay? Any problems?
David is once again self-muted.
Hey, Brian. No, Brian. I haven't had any problems.
All right. Keep riding. Thank you.
Okay. Charlene's hand is still raised.
Charlene, you're still self-muted.
There we go. It turns, when I'm using my cell phone and then it automatically mutes it when you don't light up my microphone. So I have to wait for you to light the microphone before I can.
Charlene, just leave it off and we'll mute and unmute you. You don't have to wait for the microphone to be lit up.
Yes, I do. It won't let me, I have to unmute it when it lights up. Anyway, now I forgot what I was going to say, but it was, I think, in regards to the announcements. That's been an ongoing problem with the trolleys and we've never been able to totally get the situation solved because in the older cars, there's slight differences, and part of that slight difference was in the connecting of this audio. So once the 2000 or the 2000 cars are off the road, off the line, and we're only using the low floor bus trains, that problem should be solved.
Yeah, this is Brian. I think that's what I've heard as well, that it's those older cars in the middle or even being part of that electronic chain that's causing some of the disruptions. But either way, we'll make sure that comment is forwarded again to MTS and that they help respond and get back to us.
I just know historically we've never been able to get that fixed because it's like 80% or 90% compatible, but part of that 90% or that 10% that isn't compatible involves the announce system.
Yeah, I know they're looking forward to going to all low floors as soon as possible once they get enough of them in.
And the reason of not talking was because I really didn't have a lot to say, that there's not a lot going on because nobody's writing. But the one issue, and I mentioned it to security, is that, and this is probably should have been under the earlier comments, is that especially at City College, and it's not a problem right now because there's no high school kids and none of the blind people are out there. But there's been problems with the high school kids having nothing better to do than harass the blind. That's it.
Thank you for your comment, Charlene. Does any other member have public comment? I do not see any guests have public comment. I do not see any hands being raised.
And Chair, I'll just go on the record as saying I did not receive, as the clerk, did not receive any public comment under the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Charlene, I see your hand again.
Yes, that was what it was. Under the with the public hearings, we've never had big participation with the public hearings for some reason. That's when they don't come. So it's not unique to not have public input right at this point.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. Do I need to put, oh, Clyde.
Heidi, you're self-muted. Please allow us to control.
Okay, I don't know how it muted, but anyway, hi there. Earlier, Robert Gable mentioned that he's working on a newsletter. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Loud and clear.
Okay, all right. So he was working on a newsletter, and I just wanted to clarify, does he have an idea of when he will have that finished and how he plans to disseminate that information? Is it going to go out by email or on a website, or how is that going to be provided?
Can we unmute Robert Gibo, please?
So this is Robert. So the newsletter is completed. It's done. Usually we put them on all of our vehicles. I didn't want to put them on the vehicles right now because nobody's riding our vehicles. So I have them in my office. They're all in a box. As soon as the stay-at-home orders are lifted, I'll make sure they're back out on the buses. They'll be on our website. So I'll email them out to the ADA review group, and I'll try to get the information out to as many people as possible.
Okay, thank you, Clyde and Robert. Any other comments? I don't see any hands being raised. Do I need to call the comment period to an end, or do we want to wait a few more minutes?
I think we're good. We've given it our all, and I think, like Charlene said, we've never received a lot of comments during this. Generally, it's just public comments. It's members providing comments, and historically, but we've done our due diligence, and I think you can just close this public hearing officially and then move on.
Okay, I'll officially close this public hearing and we'll move on to item number 11, which is upcoming meetings. And I can just read it unless Sandag had any comment that they wanted to make. It says the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 20th at 10 a.m. And the Sandag believe that this will also be a virtual meeting.
Yeah, at this point in time, I believe it will be a virtual meeting. Of course, if that changes, I'll let everybody know. If anybody has any comments or concerns after this first meeting about meeting in the virtual environment, you can, of course, call or email me, preferably email at lisa.madsen@sandag.org if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Does any member have a comment on this item? I don't see any hands. Do any guests have a public comment?
I do not have public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you, Tessa. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. I wanted to thank everyone for your time and for bearing with us for this first STAC virtual meeting. And I hope that you'll all stay safe and healthy. And please just contact me if you have any needs or you hear any needs related to transportation during this time. Please let me know. And I just thank you, Sandag, for your assistance, and I just hope everyone takes care, and also our hearts are with the MTS family right now, and so with that, I'll go ahead and say goodbye and adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.